The chamber of the Galactic Confederation stretched like an immense crystalline amphitheater, its curved walls shimmering with holographic insignias representing centuries of interstellar diplomacy. Delegates from 100 different species sat in their designated sections, each precisely arranged by cosmic hierarchy, a delicate ecosystem of political power that had remained unchanged for generations. Jennifer Thompson stood at the periphery of this grand hall, her slate-gray diplomatic uniform a stark contrast to the vibrant, iridescent robes of the alien representatives. To the casual observer, she appeared calm. But beneath her composed exterior, every muscle was coiled with strategic precision, every breath carefully measured. The Orcs delegates, massive crystalline beings that communicated through intricate light patterns, were the first to notice her arrival. Their translucent bodies shifted with what could only be described as condescension. Humans were the newest members of the Galactic Confederation, barely 2 decades since their first confirmed interstellar contact. To most assembled here, humanity was nothing more than a curious footnote in cosmic history. Ambassador Krultax of the Syndicate Worlds leaned towards his Pyraxian companion, mandibles clicking in what passed for a whisper among his species. Another human demonstration of their perpetual delusion of grandeur, he transmitted through a complex series of neural link frequencies. The Pyraxian's multiple eyes blinked in silent agreement, tendrils of bioluminescent communication rippling across its gelatinous form. Jennifer knew precisely what they were saying. The universal translation systems were sophisticated, but they couldn't mask the fundamental contempt that most long-established galactic civilizations felt towards humanity. Centuries of peaceful expansion, centuries of carefully negotiated alliances, and these species still saw humans as little more than children playing at interstellar politics. Her datapad, seemingly unremarkable, contained information that would soon transform every calculation in this room. Classified reports, technological assessments, and strategic analyses that had been meticulously compiled by the most brilliant minds on Earth. Each digital packet was a weapon more potent than any physical armament. The chamber's central holographic projector hummed to life, casting soft blue light across the assembled delegates. Automated systems began the ritualistic opening of the Confederation's monthly council meeting, a ceremony that had remained unchanged for over 3,000 standard galactic cycles. Representation requested for Earth Confederation, intoned a mechanical voice, its translation algorithms rendering the words in perfect clarity across multiple linguistic spectrums. Jennifer stepped forward, her movement deliberate and measured. Years of diplomatic training had prepared her for this moment, not just the formal protocols, but the intricate dance of power that existed beneath formal procedures. The Syndicate World's representative, Ambassador Krultax, couldn't help but notice something different about her approach. There was a weight to her presence that seemed incongruous with humanity's supposed junior status. Where most human diplomats had appeared eager to please, almost subservient, Thompson radiated a quiet, immovable confidence. Holographic displays began populating the central chamber, each delegation's current technological and exploratory achievements projected for collective review. The Orcs showed their latest quantum communication networks. The Pyraxian collective displayed impressive bioengineering advancements. When the human projection appeared, it was notably sparse. A few modest exploration missions, some rudimentary colonial efforts. Yet Jennifer Thompson didn't seem concerned by the comparative simplicity of the human display. Her eyes, a striking green that seemed to hold their own internal light, swept across the chamber with an expression that hinted at depths far beyond what was being presented. Unbeknownst to the assembled delegates, what they were about to witness would fundamentally reshape their understanding of humanity. The datapad in Jennifer's hand wasn't just a simple diplomatic tool. It was a key that would unlock a revelation so profound it would send shockwaves through the entire galactic political structure. The Confederation meeting was about to begin, and nothing would ever be the same again. Deep beneath the rocky terrain of the Cheyenne Mountain complex, a network of laboratories and command centers hummed with an energy that defied conventional understanding. Colonel Michael Rodriguez moved through the space like a quantum ghost, his movements precise and calculated. The United Earth Defense Force's Strategic Integration Division was more than just a military research facility. It was the crucible where humanity's most revolutionary technologies were conceived, developed, and refined. Holographic displays danced around Rodriguez, each one representing a different aspect of human technological innovation that remained carefully hidden from the galactic community. A team of researchers worked in synchronized silence. Dr. Emily Zhang, lead quantum systems engineer, manipulated complex holographic models with her neural link interface. Her fingers moved like a concert pianist, creating intricate patterns of data that would have seemed like pure magic to any outside observer. Adaptive response matrix at 98.7% efficiency, she murmured, her voice barely breaking the controlled atmosphere of the research chamber. Next to her, Dr. James Korean monitored quantum encryption protocols that could rewrite themselves faster than most species could comprehend a single mathematical equation. Rodriguez understood something that most military strategists missed. True power wasn't about overwhelming force, but about adaptive intelligence. The human approach to technological development was fundamentally different from other galactic civilizations. Where most species pursued linear technological progression, humans embraced chaos, uncertainty, and rapid iteration. A massive holographic display tracked global defense networks, each node representing a different aspect of human preparedness. Satellite systems, quantum communication grids, adaptive defense platforms, all interconnected in a way that made traditional military structures look like primitive stone tools. Simulation Run 7462 announced a computer system with clinical precision. On the display, a complex scenario unfolded, a hypothetical invasion scenario that tested the absolute limits of human defensive capabilities. The simulation ran through millions of potential variations, each one calculated and recalculated in milliseconds. Rodriguez watched as the holographic projection showed multiple layers of defense, not just physical barriers, but psychological, technological, and strategic countermeasures that would make any potential aggressor reconsider their approach. Humanity had spent decades studying every known alien military structure, identifying weaknesses that even those civilizations didn't recognize in themselves. The quantum computers weren't just processing data, they were learning. Each simulation fed into a massive neural network that continuously evolved, adapted, and improved. It was a living, breathing defense system that could predict and counter threats before they fully materialized. Dr. Zhang approached Rodriguez with a data crystal, its surface shifting with complex geometric patterns. The latest adaptive response models are showing unprecedented predictive capabilities, she reported. We can now model potential conflict scenarios with 99.2% accuracy across multiple variable sets. What made human technology truly revolutionary was its approach to complexity. Traditional military systems were rigid, designed to handle specific scenarios. The human systems were designed to embrace uncertainty, to learn and adapt in real time. A secure communication channel flickered to life. Ambassador Jennifer Thompson's encrypted transmission appeared, her image slightly distorted by multiple layers of quantum encryption. "Progress report," she said simply. Rodriguez allowed himself the briefest of smiles. The Galactic Confederation had no idea what was coming. The facility extended far beyond what satellite imaging or even most classified government reports suggested. Multiple levels of underground research centers continued for kilometers, each dedicated to a different aspect of human technological development. Quantum computing, biological adaptation research, psychological warfare strategies, all were being developed simultaneously. A separate wing focused entirely on cultural intelligence. Researchers studied alien communication patterns, psychological structures, and potential conflict scenarios with a depth that went far beyond traditional military intelligence. They weren't just preparing for potential conflicts, they were developing strategies to prevent them entirely. Dr. Korean pulled up a comprehensive analysis of known galactic civilizations. Each species was mapped not just by their technological capabilities, but by their fundamental psychological and cultural approaches to conflict, cooperation, and survival. The key isn't in defeating an enemy, Rodriguez often told his team. The key is in understanding them so completely that conflict becomes unnecessary. As the day progressed, the research continued. Millions of calculations, countless simulations, an entire ecosystem of human potential quietly preparing, waiting, evolving. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. The Zarkex invasion fleet emerged from quantum-fold space like a metallic plague, their biomechanical warships casting obsidian shadows across the pristine star system of Kepler 732. Massive vessels that combined organic technology with brutal mechanical engineering stretched across hundreds of kilometers, their weapon systems pulsing with destructive potential. Commander Vexnak of the Zarkex 5th Assault Wing allowed himself a moment of pure predatory satisfaction. The target was perfect, a small colony of the Lyran Confederacy, a minor allied species that had long been on the periphery of galactic politics. Intelligence suggested minimal defensive capabilities, making this nothing more than a routine territorial expansion. What the Zarkex didn't know was that this seemingly vulnerable colony was about to become the stage for humanity's most calculated military demonstration. The colony's surface was a mosaic of terraformed landscapes and modular settlement structures. From orbit, it appeared vulnerable, exactly as the Zarkex had predicted. Early warning systems detected the massive invasion fleet, their approach following classic Zarkex assault protocols, developed over centuries of galactic conquest. Aboard the United Earth Defense Forces command vessel Horizon, Captain Rebecca Williams studied the incoming threat with clinical precision. Her team of tactical specialists moved with a synchronicity that bordered on telepathic communication. Holographic displays tracked the Zarkex fleet's approach, each movement analyzed and cataloged in milliseconds. "Incoming hostiles," announced Lieutenant Daniel Kim, his fingers dancing across quantum-encrypted control interfaces. Standard Zarkex assault formation. Estimated time to planetary engagement, 17 minutes. Williams knew this was far more than a simple defensive operation. This was a carefully orchestrated message to the entire galactic community. The Zarkex fleet approached with overwhelming confidence. Preliminary scans showed their typical assault configuration. Massive forward ships designed to break planetary defenses, followed by troop transport vessels capable of deploying millions of biomechanical infantry units. Their technology represented the pinnacle of aggressive expansion, a model of military might that had subjugated countless civilizations. What they didn't realize was that humanity had been studying their every move for years. 3 human warships materialized seemingly from nowhere, the Horizon and 2 support vessels that looked deceptively small compared to the massive Zarkex fleet. Traditional military doctrine would have suggested an immediate retreat, but there was nothing traditional about this engagement. Captain Williams activated the first phase of their response protocol. Quantum-encrypted communication networks came alive, a web of adaptive intelligence that began to interface with the incoming threat in ways no previous civilization had ever conceived. The first wave of Zarkex attack drones encountered something impossible. Their targeting systems became confused, their computational matrices suddenly overwhelmed by adaptive algorithmic interference. It was as if the very fabric of their technological infrastructure was being rewritten in real time. Lieutenant Kim's console showed the progression. Adaptive network infiltration at 62%, he reported. Systems are fragmenting faster than their repair protocols can respond. Each Zarkex weapon system became a potential point of failure. Quantum-level hacking transformed their own technologies into defensive vulnerabilities. Weapon systems began targeting each other, communication networks collapsed, and the once mighty invasion fleet started to disintegrate from within. Commander Vexnak watched in mounting horror as his perfect invasion dissolved. Weapon systems failed. Navigation became impossible. The massive fleet that had been a symbol of Zarkex military supremacy was being systematically dismantled without a single human weapon being fired. 6 hours into the engagement, the Zarkek's fleet was nothing more than scattered debris. No human casualties. Minimal collateral damage. A complete strategic deconstruction that defied every known principle of military engagement. What the Zarkeks experienced was more than a defeat. It was a fundamental reimagining of warfare itself. Aboard the Horizon, Captain Williams allowed herself the briefest moment of satisfaction. This was more than a battle. This was a statement. A clear message to the entire galactic community about humanity's true potential. The galaxy would never be the same again. The holographic displays in the Galactic Confederation's council chamber flickered to life, casting an ethereal blue light across the stunned faces of alien delegates. Ambassador Jennifer Thompson stood at the center, her datapad connecting to the main projection system with a precision that seemed almost supernatural. What followed was not just a presentation. It was a systematic deconstruction of every preconceived notion about human technological capabilities. The first hologram materialized, a complex three-dimensional representation of quantum encryption that made the most advanced alien communication systems look like primitive radio transmissions. Dr. Emily Zhang's breakthrough quantum communication protocol was a masterpiece of adaptive intelligence. Each encryption node could instantaneously reconfigure itself, creating a communication network that was simultaneously unhackable and dynamically responsive. Our quantum communication framework, Jennifer explained, her voice calm and clinical, operates on a principle of continuous adaptive reconfiguration. Traditional encryption becomes obsolete the moment it's created. Our system evolves in real time. The Corlex delegates, beings composed of living crystal who prided themselves on their computational sophistication, leaned forward. Their translucent bodies shifted with a mixture of confusion and nascent respect. The next projection demonstrated the biomimetic warfare systems. Unlike traditional mechanical defense platforms, these were living, learning networks that could adapt faster than any known artificial intelligence. Biological algorithmic structures that could predict, respond, and neutralize threats before they'd fully materialized. A series of simulations played out. Complex conflict scenarios that would have taken traditional military systems weeks to analyze were solved in milliseconds. The human systems didn't just respond to threats. They anticipated them, understood them, and neutralized them with surgical precision. Dr. James Korean, who had been instrumental in developing the predictive algorithms, had discovered something profound about conflict resolution. It wasn't about building better weapons. It was about understanding the fundamental psychological and strategic DNA of potential conflicts. Ambassador Thompson moved to the next demonstration. Holographic displays showed adaptive nanoswarm technologies that defied conventional understanding. Microscopic networks of intelligent machines that could restructure themselves instantaneously, serving multiple functions simultaneously. Our nanoswarm technologies, she explained, are not just defensive systems. They are living, adaptive networks capable of self-repair, strategic reconfiguration, and multi-dimensional problem-solving. The Pyrexian representatives, beings of pure energy and complex biocomputational matrices, watched with increasing fascination. Their multiple sensory organs tracked every nuance of the presentation, detecting layers of complexity that went far beyond traditional technological understanding. But the most shocking revelation was yet to come. The final projection demonstrated what human researchers called the distributed resilience strategy. It was more than a technological system. It was a fundamental reimagining of how intelligent networks could function. Each combat or communication unit was simultaneously an individual entity and part of a larger self-healing organism. If one node was compromised, the entire network would instantaneously redistribute, learn, and adapt. No single point of failure could compromise the overall system. Ambassador Krultax of the Syndicate Worlds, who had previously dismissed humanity as a primitive species, found himself struggling to comprehend the technological marvel before him. This wasn't just advanced technology. This was a completely different paradigm of technological development. Dr. Zhang's research had uncovered something even more profound. The human technological approach wasn't linear. It was fractal, chaotic, adaptive. Where most civilizations developed technologies along predictable paths, humans embraced uncertainty as a fundamental design principle. Our strength, Jennifer Thompson said, her green eyes sweeping across the chamber, lies not in our current capabilities, but in our ability to continuously reimagine what's possible. The holographic displays continued to dance with complex mathematical models, biological algorithms, and strategic simulations. Each projection was a window into a technological approach that defied conventional understanding. The Galactic Confederation had invited humanity to demonstrate their capabilities. What they received was nothing short of a complete revolution in technological thinking. The presentation was over, but the real conversation was just beginning. The United Earth Defense Forces Psychological Warfare Research Center stood as a testament to humanity's most revolutionary approach to conflict. Located in a nondescript facility outside Montreal, it represented something far more profound than a traditional military research installation. Dr. Alexandra Rodriguez, head of strategic psychology, understood that true conflict resolution was less about weapons and more about understanding the fundamental nature of intelligent beings. Her team was unlike any military research group in galactic history. Anthropologists worked alongside quantum psychologists. Linguistic experts collaborated with neural network specialists. Cultural intelligence wasn't just a subset of military strategy. It was the primary strategic approach. Conflict is a language, Dr. Rodriguez often told her team. And every language can be understood, translated, and ultimately resolved. The center's primary research focused on what they called comprehensive conflict intelligence, a multidimensional approach to understanding potential confrontations that went far beyond traditional military thinking. Their databases contain not just military histories, but complete cultural, psychological, and sociological profiles of every known galactic civilization. A massive holographic display tracked multiple alien civilizations in real time. Each projection was a living, breathing map of potential conflict vectors. Economic pressures, cultural tensions, resource distributions. Everything was analyzed with a complexity that made traditional intelligence gathering look like children's guesswork. Colonel Michael Rodriguez, Alexandra's brother and the lead strategic integration specialist, studied these projections with an almost artistic intensity. Where most military leaders saw potential battlegrounds, he sought intricate ecosystems of interaction. Their training manuals were works of profound complexity. Unlike traditional military doctrines that focused on tactical engagement, human strategic documents explored the deep psychological roots of conflict. How do different species perceive threat? What are the underlying cultural mechanisms that transform diplomatic tensions into actual warfare? A team of neural network specialists developed predictive models that could simulate potential conflict scenarios with breathtaking accuracy. These weren't simple mathematical projections, but complex simulations that took into account psychological, cultural, and historical variables. Dr. Elena Kim, a specialist in xenopsychology, had developed a revolutionary approach to understanding alien communication patterns. Her research revealed that most galactic conflicts arose not from fundamental incompatibilities, but from profound misunderstandings. Every civilization has a narrative, she would explain during briefings. Our job is to understand that narrative so completely that conflict becomes unnecessary. The training programs for human diplomatic and military personnel were nothing short of revolutionary. Recruits spent years studying not just military tactics, but complex cultural intelligence. They learned multiple alien languages, studied intricate cultural practices, and developed deep empathy that went beyond simple strategic advantage. A classified training simulation played out on one of the center's secondary displays. A potential conflict scenario between 3 different galactic civilizations unfolded. where traditional military analysis would focus on weapon capabilities and territorial disputes, the human simulation explored deep psychological motivations, cultural misunderstandings, and potential diplomatic resolutions. Colonel Rodriguez pointed to a complex network of interconnected variables. "See here," he said to a group of junior researchers. "The conflict isn't about resources. It's about a fundamental misunderstanding of cultural identity." The team's approach to potential conflicts was almost medical. They didn't seek to defeat an enemy. They sought to understand and ultimately heal the underlying systemic issues that led to confrontation. Comprehensive databases tracked not just military capabilities, but intricate cultural dynamics, economic pressures, historical traumas, social evolution patterns. Everything was analyzed with a depth that transformed military intelligence into a form of applied social science. Dr. Rodriguez pulled up a projection showing the complex interconnections between various galactic civilizations. Each line represented not just a potential conflict vector, but a nuanced relationship of cultural, economic, and psychological interactions. "Warfare is the failure of communication," she often said. "Our job is to ensure that failure never happens." The center represented humanity's most profound contribution to galactic understanding. It wasn't about building better weapons. It was about building better understanding. As the day progressed, the complex networks of potential conflict continued to dance across their displays, a living, breathing map of galactic potential waiting to be understood. The communication networks of the Galactic Confederation erupted in a storm of unprecedented complexity. What had begun as a simple territorial skirmish had transformed into a moment that would redefine galactic power dynamics forever. Ambassador Krultax of the Syndicate Worlds found himself in an emergency diplomatic session, his crystalline body vibrating with a mixture of fear and reluctant admiration. The complete destruction of the Zarkex invasion fleet had sent shockwaves through every major galactic civilization. "This isn't just a military defeat," he transmitted to his closest diplomatic advisors. "This is a fundamental reimagining of warfare itself." Emergency sessions convened across multiple star systems. Intelligence agencies that had previously dismissed humanity as a minor emerging civilization now scrambled to reassess everything they thought they knew. The Pyrexian Collective, a civilization of pure energy beings known for their advanced computational capabilities, began an intensive analysis of the human intervention. Their most sophisticated neural networks worked overtime, attempting to deconstruct the technological and strategic marvel they had witnessed. Dr. Lyra Venn, the Confederation's senior strategic analyst, compiled a comprehensive report that would be distributed to every major diplomatic channel. Her findings were both terrifying and fascinating. The human intervention wasn't just a military operation. It was a complete paradigm shift in understanding conflict resolution. The Zarkex Imperium found itself in complete disarray. Their entire military doctrine, developed over thousands of standard galactic cycles, had been systematically dismantled in less than a single planetary rotation. Communication channels within their governing structures became fractured, with competing factions struggling to understand how such a complete defeat was possible. Intelligence reports began to circulate, whispers of human capabilities that went far beyond traditional technological understanding. The quantum communication networks, the adaptive warfare systems, the unprecedented approach to strategic thinking. Each revelation was more shocking than the last. Ambassador Jennifer Thompson became an overnight legend across galactic diplomatic circles. Where previous human diplomats had been seen as naive newcomers, she now represented something far more complex, a civilization that could not be underestimated. The economic implications were equally profound. Defense contractors across multiple star systems began rapid reassessments of their technological offerings. Entire military-industrial complexes found themselves obsolete overnight, their sophisticated weapon systems looking like children's toys compared to human capabilities. The Lyran Confederacy, the minor species that had been the target of the original Zarkex invasion, began sending diplomatic overtures to Earth. What had seemed like a potential extinction-level event had been transformed into a moment of unprecedented protection. Emergency sessions of the Galactic Confederation became heated debates. Some delegates called for immediate diplomatic engagement with Earth. Others argued for more cautious approaches, their fear barely concealing their deep-seated anxiety. "We are looking at a civilization that doesn't just think differently," Dr. Venn noted in her classified report. "We are looking at a fundamental reimagining of what intelligent species can achieve." The quantum communication networks buzzed with speculation. How had a species that had only recently achieved interstellar travel developed such profound capabilities? What other secrets might humanity be hiding? Intelligence agencies began intensive research efforts. Every available data point about human history, technological development, and cultural evolution was scrutinized with unprecedented intensity. The most shocking revelations were yet to come. Preliminary analyses suggested that the human intervention was not just a military operation, but a carefully calculated diplomatic message. The complete neutralization of the Zarkek's fleet had been achieved with minimal destruction, demonstrating a level of strategic restraint that was almost unprecedented. Ambassador Krultax found himself in a private communication with his most trusted advisors. They didn't just defeat the Zarkeks, he transmitted. They demonstrated that they could defeat them without even truly trying. The galactic power dynamics had shifted. What had seemed like a simple territorial skirmish had become a moment that would be studied for generations. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, and nothing would ever be the same again. As diplomatic channels continued to buzz with speculation and fear, one thing became abundantly clear. The universe had just been reminded that underestimating an emerging civilization could be the most dangerous mistake of all. The United Nations Diplomatic Integration Center in Geneva stood as a testament to humanity's most sophisticated approach to interstellar relations. Unlike traditional diplomatic facilities, this was a living, breathing ecosystem of international and now interstellar cooperation. Ambassador Jennifer Thompson walked through the facility's central hall, her movements deliberate and measured. Around her, a diverse team of diplomats, cultural experts, and strategic advisors worked with a synchronicity that defied traditional diplomatic protocols. Dr. Michael Chen, head of Interstellar Cultural Dynamics, approached with a comprehensive briefing. The holographic displays around them showed real-time diplomatic interactions with multiple galactic civilizations, a complex web of potential connections that went far beyond simple political negotiations. "This is more than diplomacy," Dr. Chen explained to a group of junior diplomatic researchers. "This is about creating a framework of mutual understanding that transcends traditional conflict paradigms." The human approach was revolutionary. Where most galactic civilizations saw diplomacy as a zero-sum game of territorial and resource negotiations, humanity proposed something entirely different. Their diplomatic strategy was a complex algorithm of cultural exchange, mutual benefit, and profound empathy. The first diplomatic communiques following the Zarkeks incident were carefully crafted masterpieces of strategic communication. Instead of demanding reparations or displaying military superiority, humanity proposed collaborative defense frameworks and shared technological insights. Ambassador Thompson's statement to the Galactic Confederation became an instant diplomatic legend. "We are not here to conquer," she had said, her voice calm and resolute. "We are here to ensure that no civilization need live in perpetual fear." It was more than a statement. It was a fundamental reimagining of interstellar relations. The diplomatic team developed comprehensive engagement protocols for each known galactic civilization. These weren't simple translation documents or basic cultural guides. They were deep, nuanced approaches that took into account psychological, economic, and cultural variables that most diplomatic services would never consider. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, a specialist in xenodiplomacy, had developed a revolutionary communication framework. Her research demonstrated that most interstellar conflicts arose from profound misunderstandings rather than fundamental incompatibilities. "Every civilization has a narrative," she often told her team. Our job is to understand that narrative so completely that cooperation becomes the natural path. The United Nations Diplomatic Integration Center became a hub of unprecedented activity. Delegations from multiple star systems began requesting comprehensive cultural exchange programs. Where previous diplomatic engagements had been formal and distant, humanity proposed something radical: true mutual understanding. Economic advisors worked alongside cultural anthropologists. Linguistic experts collaborated with quantum communication specialists. Each diplomatic approach was a carefully constructed ecosystem of mutual benefit and deep understanding. The Lyran Confederacy, the species that had been the original target of the Zarkex invasion, was the first to propose a comprehensive mutual defense and cultural exchange agreement. Their diplomatic team was stunned by the depth and sincerity of human engagement. Ambassador Thompson oversaw the drafting of these new diplomatic frameworks. Each document was more than a simple treaty. They were living documents that could adapt and evolve, much like the human approach to everything else. Diplomacy is not about controlling outcomes, she would explain during strategic briefings. It's about creating environments where mutual understanding becomes the most beneficial path for all parties. The economic implications were profound. Human diplomatic proposals included technology exchange programs, collaborative research initiatives, and comprehensive security frameworks that benefited all participating civilizations. Intelligence agencies across multiple star systems watched in fascination. The human approach defied every traditional model of interstellar engagement. They weren't seeking to dominate or control. They were seeking to understand and collaborate. Dr. Chen pulled up a complex holographic display showing the intricate diplomatic connections being established. Each line represented not just a political connection, but a potential pathway for mutual growth and understanding. As the diplomatic initiatives continued to expand, one thing became increasingly clear: humanity was rewriting the rules of interstellar engagement. They weren't just a new player on the galactic stage. They were introducing an entirely new way of thinking about cooperation, conflict, and mutual understanding. The galaxy was watching, and what they saw was nothing short of a diplomatic revolution. The Galactic Confederation's emergency session stretched into its third standard day. Delegates from across the known universe found themselves grappling with a fundamental transformation of interstellar political dynamics. Ambassador Jennifer Thompson sat at the center of the massive crystalline chamber, her presence a calm nexus of unprecedented change. Around her, the most powerful representatives of galactic civilizations debated humanity's sudden emergence as a pivotal force. Ambassador Krultax of the Syndicate world spoke first, his crystalline form shifting with complex emotional patterns that translated to a mixture of respect and underlying tension. "We are faced with a civilization that has rewritten every fundamental understanding of technological and diplomatic engagement," he transmitted. The holographic displays told a story more complex than any single delegation could comprehend. Humanity's intervention had not just prevented a potential genocide, it had demonstrated an approach to interstellar relations that defied every previous model of engagement. Dr. Lyra Venn, the Confederation's senior strategic analyst, presented a comprehensive report that left the assembled delegates in stunned silence. The human capabilities went far beyond mere technological superiority. They represented a fundamental reimagining of how intelligent species could interact. The final vote was unprecedented. Full membership in the Galactic Confederation was not just offered, it was proposed with an urgency that suggested the other civilizations needed humanity more than humanity needed them. Colonel Michael Rodriguez watched from a secure communication hub back on Earth. The strategic integration team had prepared for multiple potential outcomes, but the current scenario exceeded even their most optimistic projections. "This isn't about winning," he explained to his team. "This is about creating a framework of mutual understanding that transcends traditional conflict paradigms." The diplomatic breakthrough was more than a political moment. It represented a fundamental shift in how intelligent species could conceptualize cooperation, conflict resolution, and mutual growth. Ambassador Thompson's closing statement to the Confederation would be studied for generations. "We are not here to replace existing systems," she said, her voice calm and resolute. "We are here to demonstrate that there are alternative approaches to interstellar engagement." The economic implications were profound. Existing defense contractors across multiple star systems found themselves obsolete. Entire military-industrial complexes would need to be completely restructured. The human approach suggested that true security came from understanding, not from aggressive posturing. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, head of Cultural Studies, understood the deeper significance. This was more than a diplomatic victory. It was a moment that could potentially prevent countless future conflicts. The Pyraxian Collective, beings of pure energy and complex computational matrices, were the first to propose a comprehensive technological and cultural exchange program. Their neural networks had analyzed the human intervention from every possible angle and found something unprecedented. A civilization that viewed conflict as a problem to be solved, not a competition to be won. Back on Earth, the United Nations Diplomatic Integration Center became a hub of unprecedented activity. Delegations from multiple star systems began requesting comprehensive cultural exchange programs. What had once been distant, formal interactions were now becoming deep, meaningful connections. The quantum communication networks buzzed with a new kind of energy. Civilizations that had existed in tense diplomatic standoffs for generations were now exploring collaborative frameworks that would have been unimaginable mere weeks earlier. Colonel Rodriguez pulled up a comprehensive display showing the emerging diplomatic connections. Each line represented not just a political connection, but a potential pathway for mutual growth and understanding. The Zarkex Imperium, once considered an unstoppable military force, found itself at a critical juncture. Their entire military and political structure would need to be reimagined in light of the human intervention. As the Galactic Confederation's emergency session concluded, one thing became abundantly clear. Humanity had not just arrived on the interstellar stage. They had fundamentally transformed the entire concept of how intelligent species could interact. The galaxy would never be the same again. Epilogue In quiet research centers and diplomatic facilities across Earth, a new generation of diplomats, scientists, and strategic thinkers prepared for the next phase of humanity's cosmic journey. They understood something profound, that true power lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the capacity to understand.